Welcome on in. Belly up, have a seat, grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome on into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. It is Monday, November 3rd. This is episode 187, and we're about to have our Week 9's two-point conversation. And as always, it's my great pleasure to welcome back to the bar Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B.
Yes, Cuban B.
How you doing today, Bernie?
Oh, if bench points counted, I'd be doing great.
But they don't. All right. Well, your starts of the week were doing really good. Too bad you didn't pick them for yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right, guys. Sorry about that. All right. In this show, we will start off with some player news, go through some studs and duds for week number 9. We'll also settle into a week 9's two-point conversation where we go through all of the action up to this point, and we take a look at some early waiver wire targets. But before we do any of that, let's make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingman Assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, what are we starting off here? Let's start off with some news and notes. All right, starting off with players that we weren't sure if they were going to play going into the weekend here. DeAndre Swift ended up being inactive this week in a monster shootout in Cincinnati, and this one went exactly as planned, even though it took a little bit to kick into high gear. Ramondre Stevenson was also inactive as well. That must have meant Travion Henderson got all of the carries, right? Nope, he still found a way to split some carries, but this time it was with Terrell Jennings. Joe Flacco came into this week questionable, but he ended up being active, and man, oh man, he had a career high in passing in a monster shootout, especially in those last minute and a half, with 470 passing yards. Brock Bowers.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Made his long-awaited return to the field for the Las Vegas Raiders in a game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacoby Brissett has been named the starter for the Arizona Cardinals for the Monday night game in Dallas. Brian Thomas Jr., man, this guy just keeps getting banged up. Left Sunday's game early with an ankle injury. He already came in with some shoulder issues, but now he has an ankle injury as well. Oh, this one was tough. This one came in on some friendly fire. Tucker Kraft.
Jeez.
Was unable to finish the game in Week 9 against the Panthers as he suffered a knee injury, and right now early reports are he's feared to have a severe injury, maybe even an ACL tear. We'll await further results from tests, but it's not looking good with early reports here. Aaron Jones suffered an AC joint sprain in his shoulder. Reports are said that they are minor, and he even told reporters after the game that he expects to be ready to go for Week 10. Matthew Golden left the contest early in the third quarter with a shoulder injury. And Puka Nacua started out hot here, but he left the game early in the third quarter with a chest injury, although early reports are that he could have returned if it was a closer matchup, but the Rams erred on the side of caution as they were handling the New Orleans Saints. And CJ Stroud took a monster hit, left the game early with a concussion. He actually got off to a hot start on that first drive and a half, but had to leave. And the NFL trade deadline is this Tuesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. And there's a couple teams that are looking to be busy. I didn't write them down. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, Denver Broncos, teams in the top of their divisions are looking to make some moves to improve their defenses. All right, Bernie, went through a decent amount of news here. What do you want to add or contribute to any of this, or is there anything I might have missed?
Yeah, I just want to say Joe Flacco is showing everybody that 40-year-old is the new 20-year-old. And one good tight end in, one good tight end out. And yeah, that's about it. And Puka Nacua is a tough SOB, so he'll be fine.
All right, guys. Well, let's get right into it. Let's look at this week's studs and duds.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Wingman Fantasy Football, studs and duds.
All right, Bernie, why don't you start us off with our studs for week number 9?
All right, starting off the list is someone that Amazing Spidey just gave away. Justin Herbert, 29.7 points, 250 passing yards, 57 rushing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. What couldn't this guy do? Next up, we have Mr. Josh Allen, 28.82 points, 273 passing yards, 19 rushing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 running touchdowns. Who do these guys think they are? Michael Vick? Next, we have, this is somebody's start of the week. Geno Smith, get right game, 28.64 points for Geno, 284 passing yards, 9 rushing yards, and 4 passing touchdowns. And last up, got some gray in his hair, but he's still good. Matthew Stafford, 27.24 points, 281 passing yards, and 4 passing touchdowns.
Apparently, Geno Smith just needed Brock Bowers back in the lineup. That's all it took for him to get back on this list. All right, moving on. More quarterbacks in our top performers this week. We have Jackson Dart at 27.24 points. He was another well-rounded quarterback using his legs and his arm. 191 passing yards, 56 rushing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and he ran one in himself today. Lamar Jackson on Thursday night on someone's bench. Let's see if that's going to bite him in the butt. Lamar Jackson had 25.56 points, 204 passing yards, only 14 rushing yards coming off that hamstring injury, but he threw for 4 passing touchdowns, mainly to his tight ends. Daniel Jones, and really an ugly game, but for fantasy, it all counts the same. 24.08 points for Indiana Jones, 342 passing yards, 4 rushing yards, 1 passing TD, and 1 vultured rushing TD. And Kyle Monangai, hello, at 21.3 points. He had almost 200 total yards of offense and 3 catches, and he got on this list without even getting into the end zone.
All right, next up, makes me happy and sad all at the same time. DJ Moore, 20.98 fantasy points sitting on my bench. 2 passing yards. I'm sorry, let me read that again. 2 passing yards, 89 total yards, 4 receptions, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown. Finally, Devontae Adams, 20.5 points, 60 receiving yards, 5 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua made the list here despite not finishing the game. 19.3 fantasy points, 98 total yards, 7 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And Dalton Kincaid, where were you like 6 weeks ago when I had you in my wingman jam? 19.1 fantasy points, 101 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and 1 touchdown.
Staying with another tight end who make the list here, Sam Laporta at 18.7 points, 97 receiving yards on 6 catches, and he got in the end zone. And Josh Jacobs keeps the touchdown streak going. He finished with 18 points today, had 100 total yards, including 4 receptions, and he got in the end zone in the fourth quarter once again. And Demario Douglas, 18 points for the New England receiver, 100 total yards as well. Is that right? 4 receptions in 1? Yeah, I guess so. They both have the same stat line of receiving yards instead of total yards. 100 receiving yards, 4 catches, and he got in the end zone. And Kyren Williams.
Release the Kraken.
We haven't been able to release the Kraken as much as we usually do, but he had 17.4 points today on 114 rushing yards, and he got into the end zone.
Next up, we have another Raider, Ashton Genty, 17.4 points, 89 total yards, 5 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And now you're probably asking, where are all the kickers? Well, here are some of them. Eddie Pinero, 12.7 fantasy points, 2 field goals, 4 point afters, and 1 50-plus field goal. And Michael Badgley, 12.5 fantasy points, 2 field goals, 2 point afters, and 2 50-plus field goals.
I think you might be happy. We have a lot less kickers making our stud list this week. I think the world's becoming right, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Now, for every yin, there's a yang. Every stud, there's a dud. Bernie, why don't you start us off with our bad performers this week? Who are our duds for week 9?
Oh, Tyler Shuck. Aw, shucks. 11.24 fantasy points. Jordan, can't buy me love. 11.02 fantasy points. Tua, he's got a home here. 10.54 fantasy points. And Cam Ward. Everybody likes to talk positive about this kid, but he just can't get off the dud list. 6.4 fantasy points.
All right, continuing on with more stinkers. Speaking of stingers, we've got Kyle Stinky Pitts on this list at 5.8 points. Kenneth Gainwell made way for Jalen Warren. He only got 5.5 points. Trey Tucker, oh my goodness, only had 5.3 points, as again, with Brock Bowers back, all of the attention went that way. George Kittle, I'm so sorry, Bernie, only had 5.2 points this week.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey didn't want to share. All right, next up, nobody's calling Tyrone Tracy. 5.2 fantasy points. Tyler Warren, this whole offense was a little struggle except for Daniel Jones, 5.1 fantasy points. Keenan Allen, 5.1 fantasy points. And Bryce Young, rough day for Bryce, 4.98 fantasy points.
Christian Kirk returned to the field, but did not return into the stat book here, only getting 4.6 points. And Xavier's not worthy at only 4.5 points. Kendrick Bourne could only get 4.4. We probably shouldn't put him on the list here, but he had those 2 or 3 good weeks in a row, and people still have him on their rosters. And CJ Stroud, honestly, I thought he was going to have a good day. His first drive and a half was the most the best that the Houston Texans offense looked all day. But with him leaving early, he could only finish with 4.36 points.
Yeah, and right before the trade deadline too, Jacoby Myers trying to put up a resume here, only 4.3 fantasy points. Jahmyr Gibbs, Detroit struggled as well in their offense, 4.3 fantasy points. Jordan Mason might get some more love next week, 4.2 fantasy points. And Jonnu Smith, I don't even know who he plays for right now, 4 fantasy points for Jonnu.
All right, Nick Chubb is on this list once again. Woody Marks came into this one as questionable, but did end up getting off the injured list by Sunday morning. So Nick Chubb split the backfield once again, and he split the work at 3.4 points. Tucker Kraft, oh my, we mentioned the injury. He left, I think it was either late first half or early second half. It was about halftime, give or take. He only had 3.0 points. Kamani Vidal, this game script was wacky at 3 points as well. And Woody Marks, another running back dud for the Houston Texans at 2.7 points.
Nobody's winning fantasy with all these duds. Xavier Legette, 2.7. Keon Coleman, 2.7. Emmanuel Wilson, 2.2. And Alvin Kamara. How far have the great fallen? 2.2 fantasy points for Alvin.
Darnell Mooney, we thought he was going to rebound. He did not, as all of the work went to a teammate. We'll get to that a little bit later, but Darnell Mooney at 2 points even. Matthew Golden, we mentioned he left the game a little early, but I don't think it would have mattered as that game was a stinker at 1.9 points. We mentioned Alvin Kamara. It's not because he gave way to Devin Neal, because Devin Neal's a dud as well at 1.7. And this one we're going to talk about more in the 2-point conversation. Chuba Hubbard at 1.7, and this was circumstantial. All right, who else is on our dud list this week?
Now, DK Metcalf letting people down, 1.6 fantasy points. Cole Kmet giving it all up to Loveland, 1.5 fantasy points. New England defense, 1.25 fantasy points. And Chimera DK,
yep,
1 fantasy point.
I was hoping he'd be good. I was going to do the Mary Poppins chim DK, but he hasn't earned it yet. So anyway, Jaden Higgins with Kirk back in the lineup. These rookies took a back seat once again, only 0.9 points. Rashard Smith with Pacheco was out. He had a chance to split carries with Kareem Hunt. Didn't do anything at 0.7 points. Tyler Algiers, usually good for a late touchdown. Did not happen today, only 0.6 points. And this game was the highest scoring game of the weekend. And then I looked over and Rome Odunze, not due to injury, finished the game with 0 points. All right, guys, it's now time to get into our Mecca studs for week 9.
Mega Studs.
All right, Bernie, our first guy was on your bench. He was on my team for the Wingman Jam, but that's not as fulfilling. But Caleb Williams came in with 37.7 points, the highest scoring player of the week. And he had a crazy stat line, filled it up, 280 passing yards, 53 rushing yards, 22 receiving yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown. He touched them all in that box score today. Bernie's just holding his head in his hands as hard as he can. I'm so sorry. Brock Austin Bowers at 37.3 points. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
He had 133 total yards on 12 receptions and got in the end zone 3 times. And Joe Flacco Taco was on someone's bench as well. Bernie, you're not the only one having a mecha stud on your bench. 36.8 points for Joe Flacco, and he got to a slow start. He only had 4 points going into the second quarter, but finished with a huge day. He had 470 passing yards, a career high for himself, and had 4 passing touchdowns. Drake London, oh my goodness, this guy missed last week, and he made up for 2 games here. 34.3 points for Drake London on 118 receiving yards, 9 receptions, and he got in the end zone 3 times. And you mentioned it when you talked about Kittle. Christian McCaffrey is just a ball hog. 31.8 points, 173 total yards, 5 receptions. He got in the end zone once on the ground and once through the air.
Yes, and this man, T. Higgins, got banged up a little bit, but still 29.6 fantasy points for T. Higgins coming off of Joe Flacco's awesome arm. 121 receiving yards, 7 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and 1 2-point conversion. And Colston Loveland, love it. Mike's been talking this guy up. Should I put him in? Should I put him in? Should have put him in. 26.8 fantasy points for Colston, 118 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. And what? Tennessee player? No, Tennessee defense. 19 fantasy points for Tennessee's defense, 6 sacks, 1 interception, 1 defensive touchdown, and 1 kick return touchdown for Tennessee. And Kaimi Fairburn.
I don't know if I'm nervous.
You paid too much.
There it is. I got it.
18.3.
It was one of 2 buttons and I guessed wrong.
Yeah. 18.3 fantasy points for Kaimi on 5 field goals. And this guy setting records, Cam Little, 17.9 fantasy points, 3 field goals, 3-point afters, 1 50-yard plus field goal, but that one was record setting at 68-yard field goal for the NFL record.
Yeah, he had that 70-yarder in the preseason, and he's been getting 0s and 1s the last 3 weeks, but he came in with a monster kick today and a monster game in a huge game that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, big day for Cam Little, a big kick for that young man. All right, guys, it is now time to get into this week's 2-point conversation.
Is Jack Del Rio going to go for 2 here,
He's
Rick?
going for 2.
The Raiders will go for 2 and the probable victory with 47 seconds left.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Wingman Fantasy Football's 2-point conversation.
And it's good! Oh my goodness!
All right, the theme for week 9 is we had some old QBs have some big-time performance. Some players tick every stat imaginable, and we had wild finishes at the buzzer in multiple games in week number 9. All right, Bernie, what is the first game we're going to go over today?
Oh, this game was the Thursday night game and had none of what you just talked about. Baltimore Ravens at Miami Dolphins. And this was, as I said, the Thursday night football game. Hard Rock Stadium becomes Boo Rock Stadium as Ravens embarrass Dolphins in prime time. 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson returned from a month-long hamstring injury to throw for 4 touchdown passes in his first start since week 4. Ravens win 28-6. Baltimore improves to 3-5 with their second consecutive win, while Miami drops to 2-7 despite outgaining the Ravens in the first half. Costly Miami mistakes included a fumble deep in their own territory and a missed field goal following a false start penalty. The Ravens dominated the second half, outgaining Miami 166-39 in the third quarter alone, while converting 10 of 2 on third down conversions.
Yeah, we saw that Tua had the dud. Lamar Jackson was a stud. They just the second half, they just managed the game, and Dolphins just couldn't do anything right once again. And honestly, I don't want to talk too much about what's on the field, as the most important, pressing thing here, or interesting thing here, is that after the game, Chris Greer, the GM, after 26 years in the organization, how did this guy survive? This guy just weaseled his way up, promoting through failure, is finally out as GM. I don't think Mike McDaniel is the answer, but I know Chris Gear sets the playing field with losing mentalities. He always just tries to bring in big names at bad prices, and the team never really gets a vision. There's no direction. So I think this is a big news. I think it's actually a very positive day for the Dolphins going forward, getting rid of Chris. I'm not rooting for people to get fired, but he's had it's not like he's been there 3 years and didn't get a chance. 26 years with the team. He had some blackmailed photos on Stephen Ross to be there that long, but finally a new GM should start here. And the trade deadline, they didn't want Chris Gear making any more moves for the Miami Dolphins as they head into the trade deadline.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. I'm not big on front office info or insider stuff like that, but from all the water cooler talk about the Dolphins, yep, this seems like it's the first step in the right direction. Hopefully they just don't fill it with somebody that is just one of his minions that moves up the ranks and does it the same way he does it with bad scouting.
I will say, like I was saying, I don't McDaniel's not good. He's not the answer at the moment, but I'm not sure he's the fall guy completely. But I will say every time they fire a GM or a coach, because Chris Greer wasn't a GM the whole time. He was assistant GM or a level below that each time. They'd always get rid of one and not the other. They would never have that, let's get a vision and let's have one guy kind of set the slate. One guy's always has a lame duck part of his partnership. Like I said, a new coach with an old GM who's failing, or a new GM with a coach who's been 500 at best. So, again, I'm not looking for anyone to get fired here, but they really should have a whole new, fresh approach and have the GM make all the decisions here that coming in.
Yeah, maybe we'll see at the end of this year, see what happens. Maybe it's just one of those things where the organization doesn't want to seem like they are a crap organization to work for. Where you
too late, man. Everyone sees it.
Yeah, I know, but you got to save a little bit of face. I'm not completely hating on Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel also inherited Tua, so it's one of those things where I agree with you. Fresh start. Get the new GM, let him hire his coach, and let them draft their quarterback or acquire their quarterback.
Gotcha. All right, let's get into our Sunday games.
All right. I'm sorry. Next up, we have San Francisco 49ers at the New York Giants. This one, it was a good one. Mac Jones goes full perfectionist. CMC goes full beast mode in Jersey beatdown here. Mac Jones completed his first 14 passes and finished 19 of 24 for 235 with 2 touchdowns in his 7th start of the season. Sounds like the full-time starter to me, leading San Francisco to a bounce-back victory. Christian McCaffrey dominated with 173 scrimmage yards, as we mentioned before. The Giants showed up early to fight with an opening drive touchdown, but could not hold off San Francisco's second half surge, falling to 2-7 with their 3rd consecutive loss. And the 49ers ran 39 times for 159 yards after managing just 10 rush attempts in the previous week.
Yeah, I honestly didn't watch this game, as there were a lot of 1 o'clocks, and it didn't make my cut as I was doing some chores around the house and kind of glancing at box scores as I was going. I did notice Juwan Jennings started off the game pretty well early, getting one of their touchdowns in the first half, and then didn't do anything else. Did you watch this game at all, or can you? Again, was it just they just fed Christian McCaffrey the whole second half essentially?
Yeah, no, Juwan Jennings had a second quarter touchdown that gave the 49ers the lead there. But it pretty much was just kind of feeding Christian McCaffrey. Brian Robinson scored on an 18-yard touchdown run. Then McCaffrey added a 4-yard touchdown run to push the lead to 34-10. So it was pretty much do whatever they wanted to do. The Giants had some fight in them. Jackson Dart definitely had some fight in them, but they couldn't keep up with the 49ers. They couldn't keep up with the run game.
I couldn't say that this is a tough matchup or not, so I don't want to put it completely on that. But this was the first game without Cam Scatterbo, and Tyron Tracy did not match the output. I'm not blamed. Like I said, I didn't watch it, so I don't know if it was just a tough sledding because of the defensive line there or not. But it seemed like Scatterbo was always find a way to get a late couple of good drives and a touchdown to save his day, and getting that 15 points or so. So Tyron Tracy in his first run without the lovable Scatterbo did not step up to the plate in terms of stats anyway. Yeah, all right. I have nothing more for that game. If you want to move on or add, it's up to you.
No, that's good for that one. All right, next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons at the New England Patriots. This was Romo's missed extra point that keeps the Patriots 6-pack of wins intact. The Patriots extended their winning streak to 6 games despite Drake May committing 2 turnovers, with Atlanta kicker Parker Romo missing a crucial extra point that would have tied the score with 4 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. New England jumped out to a 21-7 first half lead, but May stripped sack. But a May strip sack just before halftime gifted Atlanta 7 points and momentum. Drake London tormented the Patriots defense all day with 3 touchdowns. But the missed point after proved decisive. May finished 19 of 29 with 259 and 2 touchdowns despite the turnovers.
All right, so we got a couple things here in this one. Obviously, the big stat was Drake London. He had the huge day today with those 3 touchdowns. But going into this, the news big news going into this was that we've been waiting. Most people have been waiting for Travion. Either people was like he's not good, or now it's time. Travion Henderson finally, out of the shackles of Antonio Gibson, who's out for the year. So now he's only splitting time instead of splitting it 3 ways. With Ramondre Stevenson. Now Ramondre Stevenson doubts. This is his chance. It's not a great matchup, but here's his chance. He started out pretty good in that first drive, getting a couple catches and a couple carries, and then they went right to Terrell Jennings, and they pretty much split back and forth. Both guys had decent plays. Both guys couldn't get in a rhythm as they were really going back and forth with these guys. I wouldn't say either of them played poorly or one played better than the other. It's just they do not want to give Travion Henderson the work because they got up, like you said, it was 28-7 or 21-7 right off the bat. And this would be like run out the clock time, and they just wouldn't do it. In terms of fantasy here, I've got Drake May. I was excited. He had 18 points right off the bat. I'm like, here we go. And then he barely got to 20 on one throw in the fourth quarter to get the first down before they kneeled it out. Finished with like 20 and a quarter points. This was just the opposite of last week where he had no points in the first half and all of his points in the second half. This was all the points in the first half and none in the second half as they just sat on that 14-point lead. Really didn't do much as Drake May was getting sacked over and over and over again. It seemed getting a lot of pressure. And Atlanta really did their best to come back with that passing attack in that second half. But in the end, Vrabel just knows how to handle the clock perfectly. Like I said, they got that one first down at the end where they could kneel the ball out. And I knew he missed that extra point, but I didn't know when it was, if it was the last touchdown or one prior. So that makes it even more egregious in that it was the one that was going to tie. So he missed it when they were going for the tie, right? They didn't score a touchdown later, New England.
Correct.
Wow, what a big miss. And then,
that was the fourth quarter. It went wide.
Right.
Yeah.
So a huge miss. And Romo's missed a handful of kicks since being promoted here. And Young Shui Koo is still in the practice squad for the Giants. So I don't know what's going on with all that. But, a big loss for the Atlanta Falcons. It looked like they were going to get blown out. And another big win for the Patriots. They're not a superstar team, but what are they, 7-2 now? Big win to just get that record nice and safe in terms of locking into a wild card spot at the least.
Yeah, and if you can manage to your defense managed to just keep them at bay, especially with their offense clicking on the receiving end, it's a great win for New England. It's one of these close ones, and you're going to get a handful of them. So as long as you can pull out one or two, then you're good to go into the playoffs. So great job, New England. Never thought I'd say that.
Oh, and then I guess we should just mention it real quick because he's their best player usually. Bijan Robinson had a ho-hum day. I didn't really get too much there. I think he finished with 13 points or 11 points. I'm not sure exactly what he finished with, but he didn't get in the end zone, if I'm not mistaken. So he probably had 90 yards and a couple catches there to get in that double digits. But again, not a dominating day. The second straight week, last week he should have had the dominating day against the Dolphins, but 2 straight weeks where he's been not on our stud list for a top 5 pick here. You'd hope he'd have a few more. He was so good early. He's getting to the limit though of how many more weeks he's going to be not a stud before you start getting not worried, but at least come on, dude, let's get out of this.
Yeah, and we'll chalk it up. It was better than yesterday's last week's stat line. So they all can't be 30 burgers. So
Right.
it's okay. It's okay.
All
I'm
right.
not worried. All right, next game we have up here: Los Angeles Chargers at the Tennessee Titans. This one, Herbert and goal line defense turned Tennessee into Titan flop in Nashville. Chargers 27, Titans 20. Justin Herbert threw for 250 and 250 and 2 touchdowns as the Chargers defense made a critical fourth down goal line stand to preserve the victory. Los Angeles overcame an early 7-0 deficit after Herbert threw an interception that linebacker Cody Barton returned 24 yards, then responded with 17 unanswered points to take control. With the Titans at the 1-yard line on fourth down, Denzel Perryman and Elijah Molden stuffed Tony Pollard at the goal line. Herbert then led the methodical 15-play, 99-yard touchdown drive that sealed the outcome.
This is one of those about 3 or 4 games today where the script went nowhere near how we thought it was going to go. A great matchup in terms of the running game against Tennessee. They were also missing their best defensive inside lineman with Simmons being out. I thought it was going to be a Vidal game. It was not, as their first touchdown was a passing touchdown. Was it for the Chargers, and the defense, the turnovers and the sacks. They were down. They were down for most of that first half was the Chargers, and they by the end, they kind of controlled it, but they only won by the 7 points. They only controlled it because you have a feeling Tennessee can't do what they're supposed to do. But score-wise, they were playing from behind really most of the game, and it did not lend it to being the running the clock out game. Jarrett Patterson got I don't think he got as many carries by the end, but it was closer than you would have thought. It was pretty split, and Patterson had some bigger chunk plays than Vidal, and Vidal didn't get any catches today, which is what's been helping him out quite a bit. So we mentioned there were a lot of duds on the LA Chargers side, but same with the Indianapolis Colts with all those duds, it seems like the quarterback takes all of the stats. Herbert and Daniel Jones that we mentioned before were both studs, while all of their teammates were duds.
Yeah, and we'll give a quick shout out there to Quentin Johnson. He did have a pretty good game there, so we got to throw the ball to somebody, right, Herbert? And great job on the fourth quarter drive to win the game. All right, next up we got the Carolina Panthers at the Green Bay Packers. Dowdle runs wild as Panthers ice Packers with walk-off field goal at the frozen tundra. Panthers 16, Packers 13. Ryan Fitzgerald connected on a 49-yard field goal as time expired to give Carolina a stunning upset victory at Lambeau Field. Rico Dowdle dominated with 25 carries for $130 and 2 touchdowns, including a crucial 19-yard run on the final drive to set up the game-winning kick. The Packers didn't find the end zone until Josh Jacobs scored with 2 minutes and 32 seconds remaining to tie the game at 13-13. Bryce Young managed 102 passing yards on 11 of 20, but the Panthers' ground game proved enough as Green Bay fell to 5-2-1 and just ruined elimination pool brackets.
Oh yeah. So this one was a game I was actually watching because I after last week with all my no-name guys coming through with big days, Kamani Vidal and RJ Harvey, I'm like, I'm going to put Emmanuel Wilson in. I can play anybody. He got like the first, I don't know if he got the first snap, but he got a reception and a rush on the first drive. They both were good, and then he didn't touch the ball until the first drive of the second half, where he got another catch and a rush or something similar to that combination, and that's all he did. I know that this is me ranting a little bit here. Chris Brooks was the main second back, and kind of like the blitz pickup and passing type of running back here. So I was upset about that, but the script was just awful. This game was very low scoring. Both teams were not moving the ball, and the times they did, they threw interceptions. Jordan Love was throwing some awful, just float him up passes, like he was trying to throw the ball away, but he's throwing away to guys just sitting there. And they even had another one. It didn't matter because it was fourth down when they were going for a chance to take the lead there at the end, or towards the end for the Green Bay. He just lofted it in the end zone, and the guy just hit his chest and dropped it. There was no receiver around. I thought he was scrambling for a while, and then he did what Cam Ward did, I think, but the opposite direction, where he was. By the end, he scrambled all the way to the left, popped, and threw it all the way to the right. I'm like, someone's got to be just standing there at this point, maybe, because you can't see with the camera tight on the rushing, scrambling quarterback. I'm like, there's probably a tight end just sitting there in the corner. And there was just a Panther sitting there in the corner, and he just dropped a punt return in the back of the end zone as was it Dubs or somebody else came over like at the end and picked up the ball off the ground. I don't know what he was doing. He was just throwing the ball up in the air. And did they miss a kick? Yeah, McManus missed another kick today. He's missed like 3 kicks in the last 2 or 3 weeks, if not 3 or 4 out of 2 or 3 weeks. Haversick was in while while McManus was hurt, and he didn't miss one kick. I know you don't want to have a guy lose a job to injury, but I would put Haversick back in, and the way they cut these kickers, I think McManus at least should be demoted, not be active. They have 2 kickers on their active roster. Not many teams do that. They could easily just dress the one guy and sit the other guy. But this, like you said, busted brackets or survivor pools, and Green Bay just looked awful.
Yeah, they did. At home.
Carolina didn't look great, but Rico Dowdle was the man in this one, coming up banged up multiple times. I thought a shoulder the first time, then a groin later, but he stayed in and kept getting chunk plays, which really just kept the clock moving in this close game and allowed the Carolina Panthers to get another sneaky win. I know you're hogging this here. Let me get one more point before I go. So we have Carolina. We have Green Bay, who's now tied to Dallas, lost to the Browns at the buzzer on a kick, and lost to Carolina. Carolina's got a better record, but we don't really consider them a better team. They're losing to their worst teams in their schedule and beating the best teams. It's kind of just a weird situation here. I wonder if they're just not getting up for these squads or what's going on there. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I think it's a little bit of both of that. It's just Jordan Love. Jordan Love really let them down, and you're right on it. The passing was just not good. And I'm not going to put it all on Jordan Love because I don't know what the route was supposed to be or what the case is. He did have some pressure, but it definitely was not the one-sided game that it should have been for Green Bay.
And then one other thing news-wise in this, they've been splitting carries. Chuba Hubbard got his starting job back after coming back from injury. However, they said that Rico Dowdle really has been earning the start, and they both were healthy. I mean, both were active. And Rico Dowdle got, I don't know the final tally, but Chuba Hubbard only had 5 carries, and Dowdle was the man even while being banged up in and out of this game. He's the new starting running back, no doubt, although we'll have to check and see how these injuries might affect him going forward.
Yeah, exactly. No reason to stop until he can't do it again.
Yep.
All right, next up we have, here we go, Mike. Let's talk about it. Chicago Bears at Cincinnati Bengals. Loveland's last second heroic save Bears from Bengals' wild comeback. It was a wild comeback for sure. Bears 47, Bengals 42. Rookie tight end Colston Loveland caught a 58-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Williams with 17 seconds remaining to cap an improbable comeback victory. Cincinnati had rallied from a 20-point deficit to take a 42-41 lead with 54 seconds left after recovering an onside kick and scoring twice in the final minutes. Joe Flacco set a career high with 470 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, while Kyle Monangai rushed for $176 to pace Chicago's ground attack. The Bears overcame a nightmarish start when Charlie Jones returned an opening kickoff 98 yards for a touchdown just 11 seconds into the game.
Yeah, we were talking about how May had the good first half this week and no points in the second half. This was the opposite for Flacco, and I mentioned it when I saw that opening kickoff. I didn't have Flacco in my line for any Bengals, but still, you still watch the old guy and hope he does well. It's hard not to root for him at this point, as long as you can, because you don't know how long it's going to last. But that opening kickoff, I'm like, there you go. There goes that script we're talking about. And it did set back the Flacco in the offense for a good quarter before they got anything going there, as that was the only score they had for a little while the Bears got off to a good start. And then they settled back in after they got going there. But it was neither Chase Brown nor Samaje Perine really did too much today. Chase Brown did way more than Samaje Perine, but neither guy really came back, as they were leaning on the passing game here, and it was not Jamar Chase. It was T. Higgins who was the man. Every time I looked up, 40 yards catch to Higgins here. Touchdown here, big reception there. He was the one who got him all those yards and touchdowns to come back. And honestly, I thought this game, I was watching this game box score wise, very, very close, game channel wise, very closely. When I'm like, they got the ball back and the onside kick. There's no way. And then I saw him score. Like, this game's over. I actually turned away and then saw that Love. And then I looked at the score again. Like, the Chicago scored again, and it was a touchdown by Loveland. And then I saw the play just over the middle, nice, 18 to 22 yard in route over the middle, and 3 Bengals just simultaneously hit him where they all fell down, and he just stayed up and then turned around and took off down the field. I was saying all week I was thinking about putting Loveland in, and I just couldn't pull the trigger, as I really thought Emmanuel Wilson was going to do something in this Carolina game. But this was nuts. They had 4 different players throw a pass for the Bears today, I believe was the stat I saw. I'm not sure who Bajan threw one. We know DJ Moore threw one, and Caleb Williams, of course. I'm not sure who the 4th one was. But they were just having fun out there, open up the playbook. And you mentioned it, no matter what players you want to use, the Cincinnati defense will just let you do what you got to do to have a big-time game.
Yeah, this was a fun game to watch. My big takeaway from this was how effortless Joe Flacco makes some of these passes seem. He was really just hitting people in stride. T. Higgins did make some spectacular catches, but Noah Fant was hitting stride. It was fun to see. I can't say this guy's name. How do you say this guy's name? The other Andre
Yosevich.
He had one touchdown called off because he had stepped out of bounds at the back of the end zone, and then he came back in and he was the first one to catch it. And then he came back a couple drives later and he scored the same, almost exact same play, scored the touchdown. But the level of passing accuracy from Flacco, and if he was 10, 15 years younger, he would have had that Hail Mary at the end, and it could have been a different outcome. He just couldn't get the ball. He couldn't heave-ho it down the field. So
I think it was
Joe Flacco, my hands off to you.
Yeah, I think it was the Fant touchdown. It might have been the Yosevich one, but I think it was a Fant one where he just got the ball at the snap. Like I said, he's just a 1-2 shuffle, and he just throws it so early, knowing where the guy's going to be and what the angle is. And
that was Fant, and his hands were there. It's like perfect in stride. It was ridiculous.
He threw that so early. He put the touch on he needed, and he's like, I know where I'm going to go. I don't need to wait to see, you're supposed to go there, and that the defender's already shedding to a certain side. That should be there if you make the right play.
Exactly. That's confidence in your receivers as well. So
the only thing here, they keep losing though these games to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep alive for these for this playoff spot here. That's why they brought him in to tread water, since they got off that 2-0 start. They could survive the 3 or 4 losses they had with Browning, but now they're 1-3 or 1-2 with 1-3, I think, with Flacco. So they're, I guess, 3-6 or whatever their record is. And now that the Ravens won last time, and we'll get to it a little bit later, a little spoiler, we'll talk more about it, but the big win by the Steelers here, not only are they not winning, but they're losing ground as these other teams are starting to turn it around. So this is just interesting here, because there's been I mentioned the last time about maybe a pickup of Joe Burrow for a potential later in the year. He's only going to come back if they have a playoff shot. They're not going to bring him back to play with a team that's 5-10 with 2 weeks to go. You know what I mean? So these losses really affect the team overall, but also the potential to bring back their superstar quarterback late in the year if they do need to do so, or wanted to do so.
Yeah, they might need to bring him back just so he can get beat up a little bit. He needs a little bit of conditioning.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got so we're going from one game that I had all my points on the bench to a second game where I had my starters in and they could not produce coming off the bye week. Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. McCarthy's return with 3 touchdowns as Vikings shock Lions at Ford Field here. JJ McCarthy threw 2 touchdown passes and ran for a score in his return from a 5-game absence with an ankle injury, leading Minnesota to an upset victory. McCarthy sealed the win by hitting Jalen Naylor for a 16 yards on 3rd and 5 with under 2 minutes remaining, allowing the Vikings to run out the clock. Detroit nearly completed a furious comeback when Jared Goff found Jameson Williams for a 37-yard amazing touchdown.
It was nice, yeah.
With a minute 55 left to cut the deficit to 27-24. The Lions' rally hopes were dashed when they opted to kick deep and play defense, and Minnesota converted on a crucial 3rd down to ice the game.
All right, I'm going off the script here a little bit. There's a timeout, so I don't know if they're going to change or not, but Seattle's inside the 8, and Walker was in the backfield, but a timeout was called. So I'm not sure they're going to sub in or not. Usually they put a Charbonnet in, but you might have a chance. I know you need as many points as you can get. They might set up Walker for a potential touchdown. All right,
Walker's been staying in. I've been watching.
Okay.
Yeah, he this was the game, but the touchdowns came early, and they weren't to him. So I think he needed the early touchdowns.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
back to this Minnesota game here. They started this. Both teams scored on their first drive, if I'm not mistaken. Justin Jefferson caught a touchdown on the first drive, and Laporta came right down so it was tied there. But then we saw the stats. David Montgomery did get in the end zone on a late touchdown to get them back into the game. But Jahmyr Gibbs, I didn't watch too much of this one, but I don't know what happened with him. He didn't get hurt, but he was on our dud list. That was a very surprising thing to see his name as I was going through the numbers here. So we had some duds there. McCarthy did just enough. He was kind of, managing the game the best he could. I didn't make too many mistakes, but they didn't score a ton of points. But again, against a big-time opponent, a division rival here, that was a big win. Is that just with a loss by Green Bay and now the loss by Detroit? You've got Minnesota, who's been kind of just treading water. Now they're a game back instead of 2 or 3 games back if it would have been the opposite direction. So it's a huge win for Minnesota. Just a big game here for them altogether.
Yeah.
You mentioned that big pass to Naylor. That's very similar to what Drake May did on that pass, a big 16, 18-yard pass and getting towards that 2-minute warning where then you can start running the clock out. Those are huge in finishing off these games. You have to have that 1 or 2 big first downs to really set the game away, and a big play and that was Naylor's only catch of the day, and it was one of the biggest ones in terms of just game script and managing the game.
Yeah. This was tough for Goff. The defensive line for the Vikings was playing much better than they had previous weeks. So Goff was pressured a lot, and he couldn't. There was a lot of incomplete passes to St. Brown, which that's pretty much they got to start there. And without Gibbs, they have to have St. Brown. If they don't have St. Brown or Gibbs doing anything, it's just a bad combination. So, offensive line issues with Detroit is going to be something to look at going forward.
Yeah, again, just a big win for Minnesota. Some of these teams are running away with their divisions here, and now everything it's getting a little more compact, a little more. You got to watch for the next 2 weeks, or it could have some big swings in terms of standings and playoff potentials.
Yep. Next up, we have Indianapolis Colts at Pittsburgh Steelers. 6 turnovers spelled doom as the Steelers defense feast on Colts' historic collapse. Oh, maybe not so much historic, but it is for now. All right, Steelers 27, Colts 20. The Colts committed 6 turnovers, their most since 2007, as Pittsburgh scored 24 points off the miscues to hand Indianapolis their second loss of the season. Daniel Jones was intercepted 3 times and sacked for a season-high 5 times, with the turnovers dooming an offense that had been averaging the league-leading 33.8 points per game. TJ Watt's strip sack and recovery in the first half turned momentum, while linebacker Peyton Willis' interception deep in Colts territory set up Pittsburgh's go-ahead touchdown. Jonathan Taylor was held to just 45 yards on 14 carries. So the Steelers defense really stifled Indianapolis' high-powered attack.
This is one of the 3 games I can think of off the top of my head. It was the Chargers game against Tennessee, and it was the Green Bay Carolina game, and this one where the script was not anywhere what we thought it was going to be. I had Aaron Rodgers at the start of the week thinking they were going to have to score to keep up, and they just kept getting short fields, and Jaylen Warren got the majority of the scores, not all of them. So there was the offense wasn't needed. The offense completed the drives, but they started with such short fields with all these turnovers, and there was no pressure put on them from the other side because even though Indianapolis was down, they just kept giving the ball back, and they never really put the pressure on. And I don't know if I didn't watch too much of this game as it was just so weird. Like even at the end there, like again, just as a personal thing, I have Chris Boswell, and there was a 10-point game with like 4 minutes left, and Pittsburgh had the ball like at the 30-yard line. I'm like, all right, they're going to kick a field goal. They can't run the clock out. There's too much time, and they're not going to punt it this close. So I'm like, I'm going to get 3 points. Then he threw an interception. I believe it's a fumble interception by Rodgers. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And then 2 plays later, Daniel Jones threw an interception right back to flip the field. So now they could run the clock out because they had more field to do. And at that point, the game wasn't out of it. They would have scored on a drive or 2 in that fourth quarter. Indianapolis, they could have come back, but they just really They had one touchdown to Josh Downs, I think, in the late third or early fourth quarter that maybe put a little bit of pressure on. But once again, Jaylen Warren was pretty solid as the running back today. And I guess Aaron Rodgers, again, I didn't see it in terms of stats, but I guess he just managed the time really well. And they just kept Indianapolis at arm's length, and Indianapolis maybe kept themselves at arm's length with these big shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and this was it was pretty similar to the Minnesota game as far as the defense just kind of took over this game. Pittsburgh's offense didn't win this game; their defense won this game for them. Fourth quarter, Alex Highsmith strip sacked Daniel Jones that led to the 46-yard Boswell field goal that made it 27-10. That kind of just kept pushing it further and further out. They didn't give up though, so I just chalk it up. Sometimes the good teams got to lose. I think this is a mirage for the Pittsburgh defense. I don't think they can sustain this kind of high-powered defensive play going forward.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's defense is they've got good players, but they can be beat through the air sometimes. But not when you're throwing it back to them, I guess.
Exactly. And it's okay. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say Indianapolis has been faking it and they played a good team now and lost. They just got a loss. They got beat by a good defense. All right. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos at the Houston Texans. Broncos grind out six-pack. Nick's 25-yard scramble set up Lutz to ice Houston in a Denver slugfest. Denver extended their winning streak to 6 games with a fourth quarter comeback, improving to 7-2. This defensive battle featured more 3-and-outs than anyone could count, with both teams struggling offensively throughout. With under a minute remaining and the game tied, Bo Nix scrambled 25 yards to set up Will Lutz's game-winning 34-yard field goal. C.J. Stroud exited with a concussion in the second quarter, forcing Davis Mills into action for Houston.
Yeah, Houston was moving the ball those first couple drives there. This is all field goals, and I think all the field goals in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe one was in the second half, but I don't think so. 5 field goals for Fairbairn for 15 points, and the other team had 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion, so it was 15-15 at around halftime or early third quarter, whenever that was, and they just stayed there the whole time until that last field goal. This was awful. Davis Mills it seemed like he was throwing the ball He was leading those field goal drives after the first 1 or 2 that Stroud was in. They were moving the ball a little bit, and then he just stopped. They didn't do anything on the ground. They didn't do anything through the air. Was this one of the games? There were 2 games where there were 2 running backs I'd never heard of. There was a Britton Brooks and a British somebody else. I believe this one they were like first and goal at the 1, and this British somebody, not ethnicity, his first name is British, had like 3 carries at the 1-yard line. Like, what the heck is this? And they just couldn't get in the end zone, obviously. They got way more scoring opportunities than did the Broncos. We thought this game might be low scoring because both these are really good defenses. I thought, though, with the absence of Patrick Surtain, we might get some passing attack going here. But with C.J. Stroud leaving so early, it really did just mess the whole game up. Or some of the game up.
Yeah, it definitely did. Knicks played a good game. It was a tough defensive battle, like you said. R.J. Harvey caught a wheel route at the fourth quarter for a touchdown. And then Franklin got the 2-point conversion. So it was not a pretty game. Broncos, they're just staying alive, man. They're just staying alive. It's going to be an interesting AFC West showdown, I think.
How does R.J. Harvey touch the ball 4 times a game and still find a way to get a touchdown?
I think coach just puts him to the right place at the right time.
It's crazy. I'm looking and he's like 2 carries for 2 yards and then like a touchdown for like 30 yards down the sideline.
Yeah, and they're always big plays. He's a playmaker for sure.
All right.
So, all right. Next up, we've got.
Before we leave, there's one point I want to make. I remember now. Even though Denver had made the playoffs last year, where I believe they finished with 10 wins, but their record in 1-score games, I forget, was like 1-4, 1-5, 2-6, something in that range. And this year, they're winning those 1-score games at the buzzer. Yeah. That Giants game, they came back. This one, I think there's one more in there, but nonetheless, they're like 3-1 in 1-score games. I'm making up a number a little bit, but just the idea is they were losing those one-score games last year. They're winning those 1-score games this year, and they're already a 500 team at base level, if not a little better. They're like, so they won 10 wins last year with being bad in 1-score games. So this, they're leading that division here. and there's going to be hard for those other teams to catch them if they just keep winning.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Good on them, though. All right, next up, Sean Payton's old team, New Orleans Saints at the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford goes full dad mode, shows the rookie Shuck how to play football. Matthew Stafford threw 4 touchdown passes for the first time in consecutive games during his 17 careers as Los Angeles extended their winning streak to 3. Rookie Tyler Shuck made his first NFL start for New Orleans, but struggled after a promising 2-minute drill touchdown drive late in the first half. The Rams dominated time of possession, 43 and a half minutes to 16 minutes. I'm sorry, almost 44 minutes to 16 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with the Saints not running their 4th play of the second half until the 4th quarter. Los Angeles improved to 6-2, while New Orleans fell to 1-8. This was just a one-sided flop show.
Yeah, this game I actually watched, but as it was on, I'm like, I can get some more work around the house done. I don't have to stare at it, but I did make the main screen here. I had the LA Rams defense, and it went how you thought it would go in terms of dominating, but it didn't go as I thought they'd be able to cause some more havoc. They were stopping completely. I think it was like 3 and outs essentially, and then they brought in Taysom Hill, who had like a couple of good runs to get him in the field goal range, which broke the shutout. And then you mentioned that that 2-minute drill was the only time they actually completed any passes. So they pretty much got all of their like 80% of the yards and all 10 of their points in about a 6-minute stretch of game time in the middle late second quarter towards halftime. And then they weren't getting as many sacks as I was hoping on Shuck, because he did suck. But all he did was he would take the ball and would throw it in the dirt right away. He's like, "You're not going to get me, sucker." And he would just throw it at people's feet, and like he wasn't completing anything. He's like, it was just funny because I'm like, there was no chance for interceptions, there was no chance for sacks. He did what Flacco does, but instead of throwing to people, he was just finding ways to not get intentional grounding calls. He was like, there's someone who's an eligible receiver, let me throw it at his leg. It was very frustrating as he was just playing keep away. I think he only got sacked 1 or 2 times by the end of the game. And just because he was playing hot potato keep away, but he wasn't trying to move the ball.
No, and his he did lead that second quarter touchdown drive, but that was aided by a roughing penalty to cut the deficit to 20-10 at halftime. So it's not like he finished the drive clean anyway.
So I saw that roughing penalty. It's hard to ask your opinion without seeing it, but I'm going to explain it as best I can anyway. Maybe I'm biased, like I said, as I had the defense. The lineman came off the snap like hard, like a bat out of hell. Like he beat his guy with like a low shoulder, and after the low shoulder, just lunged into the quarterback. He never threw the ball. So they said roughing the passer. I'm like, he's not a passer if he's holding on the ball. It's a sack. And he dove at him, face mask up, like how they say, like, go at, like, you should be looking at your target, don't put your head down. And they hit face mask to face mask as he just dove right into his chest and stared him in the face as he tackled him hard. Again, it wasn't a late hit as the guy never threw the ball. And they're like, it's a head-to-head contact. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want you to get rid of like the crown of the head, like aiming with your head, like your face mask sticks out in front of your face. Like going face to face is like the cleanest hit you can make, in my opinion, in terms of technique. I was kind of, and like you said, that got him going closer for that touchdown drive. I was a little upset there, and they're like, well, the rule is now you can't touch him in the head. Maybe that's the case, but I mean, like, he literally went squared up, shoulders high, face up. Nothing was out in front of his body in terms of his shoulders or head. It just when you run into a guy, chest to chest, you got face masks sticking out past your chest because you have a helmet sticking out there that's going to hit.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. You can't touch it at all. You can't graze it. You can't. There's nothing you can do. It's rough, but they didn't need it. I know you wanted the fantasy points for it, but they didn't need it.
the Rams didn't need it. I needed it.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. They were going to win that game no matter what. So yeah, just give the kid a break.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying. All right, next up, we've got Jacksonville Jaguars at the Las Vegas Raiders. This one was Bowers breaking hearts here. Raiders go for 2, get 0 in gut-wrenching overtime loss after tight end's hat trick. Brock Bowers caught his 3rd touchdown of the game in overtime to tie the score. To tie the To tie the score 30-30, but Las Vegas went for 2 instead of kicking the extra point and the conversion and the conversion pass was batted away, giving Jacksonville the 1-point victory. The Jaguars won the overtime coin toss and scored on a 4th and goal run by Trevor Lawrence to take the 30-23 lead. Geno Smith threw 2 interceptions in the loss, including one in the red zone during the opening drive of the second half. Jacksonville improved to 5-3, while Vegas fell to 2-6.
This seemed like the team that played the best did not win this game. That's what it seemed like. Like at the end, like, oh man, what a great game by the Raiders. Oh wait, Jacksonville won. It's like the second time seemed like they've been outplayed, and I didn't look at the score and they're up by 1 or 2 points.
Jacksonville has a winning record despite how bad they play.
Yeah, so I didn't see I picked up this game in bonus coverage, so it was at that overtime was where I was starting to watch a little more. But then I was looking at the stats as they were going through them. Like, oh my goodness, your start of the week came through. You had a big time start of the week. I thought it was funny because my opponent this week had Geno Smith as his backup quarterback. He dropped him. I'm like, I wonder. I'm trying to figure out how does the start of the week have to play with this? Is this a jinx in the good way for me or bad way? It was good for me as he picked up McCarthy, but McCarthy played awesome, but not nearly as good as Geno Smith did. He had a great day with Brock Bowers. Had like Jacoby. We mentioned Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers as duds. This was just Genty had a good day, but it was all Bowers, and Geno Smith just kept going over and over again to Bowers with 12 catches I think he had there and the 3 touchdowns. Geno Smith looked a lot better. I swear, like that last touchdown, like they looked like they won the game. You felt like it until you looked up and they're like, oh, the Raiders are the ones with their like heads down. This doesn't feel right.
Yeah, this was one of those games where they did everything they were supposed to do. Smith threw his second interception in the third quarter that led to a Jacksonville field goal to tie it at 6-6. So it was one of those things where Geno didn't play a perfect game, but they played good enough where they should have won this game. But Trevor Lawrence, for some reason, he's not playing great this year. He seems very frustrated with either the offensive coordinator or the coach or just the offense in general. Like his whole body language and demeanor just seems off this year. But they're winning, and he's in my opinion, he's a good quarterback. He's just not in the right position or situation for him to shine. It kind of reminds me of what I thought of Daniel Jones. This big guy that's got talent that can throw the ball all over. He can run. He's not afraid. And he's just not able to win convincingly. Vegas should have won this game. And Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers are the future.
So in terms of, it's a little different because the scoring came in the overtime here, but even to get the overtime, that big 68-yard kick by Cam Little looms large in this game at some point, either to keep it as a tie score and going into regulation here, or before the end of regulation. Pardon me. So that was a big kick. Do you know, was that at the end of the half or something where they had less to worry about if he didn't make it, or did they go for that like in the middle of the game?
He did that. He did it in the second quarter.
Okay, that's usually when they kind of go for these big kicks.
As time is expiring. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes more sense. Like, because you have less to lose here if you get blocked or if they get a good field position, because there's no field position to be had. So that makes sense. We saw Tootin get in the end zone. I'm curious. I was going to try and get into this here. Travis Hunter, we heard had that knee injury, although we're not sure the severity entirely, but they did put him on the IR. And then we had Brian Thomas Jr. leave the game early. We already thought there was going to be some, and Brenton Strange has already been out on the IR. He's got a couple weeks left to miss. But with the Hunter part, we thought maybe P.J. Washington could get an increased role here, and then even more so with the departure of Brian Thomas. Do you happen to have the box score there? What P.J. Washington? He didn't make our stud or dud list, so I'm curious where he fell in P.J. Washington.
I don't have it pulled up here. I can get it pulled up though. Hold on a second.
I'm just curious because now he's the number one at this point, minus whatever backup tight end you got.
He is, but hold on a second. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, while you look that up here, it's just it's amazing how the this game looked like it was low scoring, and then all of a sudden it wasn't anymore, as both teams scored a couple touchdowns in that second half, and both teams scored in the overtime. So that adds 13 points to the overall score with the extra period here. So that the over under was hit there by that overtime. You usually don't get 2 touchdowns in an overtime period.
Yeah, 9-6 and 6-9. It was pretty interesting. Okay. Who do you need now?
PJ Washington, is that his name?
PJ Washington, Parker Washington.
Parker Washington. I apologize, Parker Washington.
That's okay. He did have 9 targets, 8 receptions for 90 yards.
Okay, so yeah, it's a good day.
Yeah, he had a decent day. And Brian Thomas, he had 5 targets, but he only had the 3 receptions for 55 yards. So he had some bigger plays. De'Ami Brown was the other big target guy at 7 targets. So they spread the ball around pretty okay amongst Brown, Etienne, Thomas, and Washington. That was their 4 big guys getting the ball.
All right, what's our next game?
All right, next up. All right, back to the other page. Hold on.
Sorry.
No, you're good, buddy. We only got one game left here. It looks
Perfect.
like we've got KC at Buffalo, and this was Allen conquers the kingdom again. Bills hand Chiefs' 4th loss, extend regular season reign to 5 straight, but not in the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
Josh Allen threw 273 yards and a touchdown while rushing for 2 scores as Buffalo defeated KC in a rematch of last season's AFC Championship game, handing the Chiefs their 4th loss of the season, though. The Bills improved to 5 straight regular season wins over Kansas City, despite losing all four playoff matchups. Patrick Mahomes struggled, finishing just 15 of 34 with an interception and 3 sacks. Dalton Kincaid became the first 100-yard receiver against Kansas City in 13 games, while James Cook became the first running back to crack 100 yards against the Chiefs defense this season.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I forget the exact number you alluded to there, but it's like essentially like Allen is like 6-2 against Mahomes in the regular season, but like 0-4 or 0-3 or whatever the number is in the playoffs. Yeah. So it's like 6 out of 10. You're like, that sounds good, but it's like very skewed from before the calendar turns to after. So yeah, a big win here. We kind of I'm only bringing it up because I remember, because this one was a big time game. I'm not putting on the spot that way. How you said you thought Kansas City, who's been rolling, all fairness there, you thought they were going to take this one, but Buffalo at home, they always find a way. You don't know who it's going to be. This time it was Kincaid.
Yeah.
Last week might have been Shakir. It could be Keon Coleman, who's been dormant for 6 weeks, might have a big game any one time. You don't know when. So I trust Allen at home in the regular season. I guess we'll keep it at that. But they really dominated them. They really put them in check. Their defense really stifled Mahomes in the offense here. Like I said, they were really cooking. Kareem Hunt did find his way in the end zone. Brashard Smith, we always hope for these rookies when these situations arrive to maybe have a chance to be exciting players as they're younger, faster, a little more juice. But the old vet in his 3rd time, at least 2nd time or 3rd time now with the Kansas City Chiefs, depending on if you want to count the time where he was off but came back to the same team, gets it done for them. He's their main back, but not good enough, as James Cook really did help. And the, I don't know if we call them tush pushes, the short touchdown runs by Josh Allen really sealed the deal here.
Yeah, it did for sure. Kareem Hunt doing his thing. Rice doing his thing. Mahomes just couldn't get enough to get them over the edge. But you're struggling as a team when you're got Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting the ball multiple times in one series. So the Chiefs will be fine. The Bills will be fine. We might see them again in the AFC Championship game.
Yep. All right. That was our last game, you said?
That's our last game.
All right. Yeah, there were some, like I said, 3 or 4 games where the script was just wonky, and it really changed what we expected to happen, which happens every week, I guess. But some of these were like so far gone, especially that Tennessee game where they got up, they were up early or whatever it was, or their defense was dominating, and all the turnovers for Indianapolis was another one for sure. All right, let's get to some early waiver wire thoughts here. I'm going to start off here because this one actually is still for this week, guys. Jacoby Brissett is going to start Monday night. If you were waiting to see what might happen here with that, there is a plus matchup for a quarterback still on the waiver wire for this week, week 9. So keep that in mind. Davis Mills looked awful. Not sure how long Stroud's going to be out with that concussion. Not that big hits indicate length of time, but he got knocked out today. That was a big hit he took, did Stroud. Davis Mills looked awful, but they're playing Jacksonville. We saw what Geno Smith did. It looks like Bernie's got an early start of the week for Davis Mills next week. I'm just kidding there. And then I've got that Joe Burrow I was talking about, again, out for I don't know exactly how long, 6 to 8 weeks still. I would say, and actually I was a little upset because I was going to put him on my team in about 2 weeks or so. And the team in first place in our league picked him up today. I don't know if you noticed that. Picked him up and put him on his IR. So I thought that was a good move for a team that's already in first place. And if you don't need to use that quarterback spot or IR spot, might as well put someone in there. So I thought that was a good move. I don't know if it's going to come to anything, but it doesn't cost you anything, especially if you have an open IR spot. But with Cincinnati losing, it makes it less and less likely that Joe Burrow is going to get back on the field, other than shaking off the rust, as Bernie suggests they might. Do you have any quarterbacks, or do you have any comments on the quarterbacks I mentioned, or what do you have there?
No, it's pretty thin right now.
Yeah.
If Geno Smith is out there, I would go ahead and I would pick Geno up as well. Brock Bowers is healthy. Genty is playing well. It'll open stuff up for Geno. Geno's not bad. He's just in a tough spot, and he just was in a slump.
All right. I've got I got 3 running backs here. They're all very sketchy here. One's actually a little more interesting than the others. So we're going to go with Tank Bigsby, as he appears to be the backup now. We'll see coming out of the bye here for Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, we're not picking him up to play next week. Kyle Monangai was picked up 2 weeks ago, not this week when he found out the news here, all right? You've got to pick up these guys a week or two early, especially in these 14-team leagues that we have or bigger. Is that Jaden Daniels who's down with another leg injury? Oh, no. So you got to get ahead of it here. But Tank Bigsby against Green Bay next week is not the good matchup. But after that, they play all green. Oh, no. Jaden Daniels just looks like a dislocated elbow, man. His elbow went back. His arm went backwards. Not good. I apologize there for that, getting away from the thing here, but that's important here. We're not doing the severity here, but not good. All right. The only reason I say Tank Bigsby is, again, not for this week or the following week, but the Philadelphia Eagles have plus matchups from week 12 to the end of the season, green or yellow, the rest of the way. So if you get him on your bench now, and if something happens in 3 or 4 weeks, you've got a meal ticket through the playoffs. All right. Terrell Jennings came in for the New England Patriots. Split time, looked decent, looked as good as anybody else could look here. Not sure how long Ramondre Stevenson might be out only this 1 week, so we're not sure there. But he got a chance to split carries, and he did just as good as Ramondre Stevenson, I would say. They're playing Tampa Bay next week, so not a great matchup next week nonetheless. And I got Keaton Mitchell, again, just as a backup guy here. He's the one who has juice if he ever gets some work, although he doesn't fit the role of a backup for Derrick Henry. But in the same vein as Tank Bigsby, they're playing Minnesota next week. Not a good matchup, but they've got plus matchups between weeks 12 and 15 do the Baltimore Ravens. So again, if you're going to put a handcuff on your team that you might pop, you want someone that has a good schedule at least in the near future. All right, do you have any other running backs that you want to mention? There's really slim pickings out there.
Yeah, no, you said it was just Terrell Jennings. Chuba Hubbard might be out there. He might be
Chuba Hubbard, yes,
might be a decent guy to have just in case the injury bug hits again on that team.
I didn't have any receivers. Do you have any receivers that caught your eye today as potential pickups?
No, I mean Loveland, I guess. Torrey Horton, and Demario Douglas. They might be available. They're getting love from their quarterbacks, so that could be a good thing.
I would say in terms of Loveland, that was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. In terms of Loveland here, that was he's been doing nothing all year. That was a Cincinnati play. So just look at any available tight ends in any week coming up against Cincinnati. If it's maybe I'm saying if it's a big tight end who's playing Cincinnati next week who's not available, look at the next week. Keep looking. Find an available tight end against Cincinnati anytime this season and plan for that week, and you're going to have a startable flex in that matchup there. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
No, you're good. That was it.
All right, I got a couple kickers here that'll catch my attention here. Chase McLaughlin in our league was dropped on the bye week here. He's been one of the better kickers all week, and up against the New England Patriots. Those games are always pretty high scoring in that 28 to 24 range. This all depends if there's going to be field goals kicked there, but he's going to be a full season play even if this first game is not the best chance here. And then I got as a speculative pick here, Lucas Havrisik for the Green Bay Packers. That offense is good. McManus has been missing kicks a lot since he's been back, honestly. I could see them making a move here. I'm just speculating here. Lucas Haversick might be a free kicker on one of the top offenses for a chance to be picked up out there. And in terms of kickers, not kickers, defenses, I've got the New York Jets versus Cleveland. Dylan Gabriel, and we're not sure about Kinshawn Junkins, but there's a chance he's missing. That offense might be even worse than it has been. And in that same matchup, if Cleveland was dropped during their bye week, you can get the Jets to also play against Cleveland. So, or the Cleveland to play against the Jets, I mean. So that matchup has two bad offenses, and you'll just take the defensive matchup if you can get it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, guys. Hey, I want to thank you all so very much for joining us here. Yeah, they've got Jaden Daniels and an air cast around his arm. That wasn't good. So sorry. I would like to thank all you guys for watching and or listening. Another episode of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. You can find our audio feeds on your favorite podcast platforms. Just search Wingman the League and we'll come to the top of your search. And if you want to see our our graphs have been clean lately. Clean. If you want to see them for yourself, go to our YouTube channel at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube or youtube.com/@wingmanfantasyfootball. When you head over there, guys, do me the favor, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Let us know what we can do to make your experience even better. All right, guys, with that being said, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty,
and your starters outscore your bench.
Oh, that's always a good tip. Good tip. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.